That is. Good morning, folks. Welcome to At the Inn. I'm Matt here with Mike and Sebastian. As always, welcome to our new Saturday morning attempt at getting regular here, which sounds a little weird. No, we are not sponsored by Muslix today. We are sponsored by coffee, lack of sleep, and sick people. What's going on with you boys? What's happening?
Just getting up for the day, really. Oh, yawn.
Yeah. Still having the morning coffee. You know, everybody's asleep still. Well, maybe still. I'm not sure, but I'm downstairs. But yeah, I've had some sick people in the house, so I've had to step up my game a bit. But that's okay. It happens, and just
daddy duties.
Yeah, I'm praying I don't get it. That's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm enjoying a week off work here.
Nice.
So it's nice. No responsibilities this week, which is different from a standard week. But yeah, you got to take some time off when you can take it. So, and this is a good time to take it off from my job because there's nothing going on in sports or any type of like events or anything. So,
does your time off sort of hinge around what's going on in the world of like sport and stuff like that?
It can, for the most part, we kind of like don't take time off during our busiest times. So December is basically a black month. Like, I mean, black because it's blacked out in our schedules. So you can't take time off there. So I can't really take any time off in December, but you know, in the summer for sure, because it's a lot slower in the summer. More people go away instead of wanting to spend their time inside of a bar.
Well, everybody wants to be outside. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. I keep trying to take Super Bowl off every year, but my boss just says, the owner's like, no. Maybe next year, let's give it a shot.
That's got to be is that the busiest day of the year in your bar?
It is one of them. So we have a thing in Port Coquitlam called the car show.
Oh, right.
It is in August, late August, and it is probably set up about 150 feet away from our door on the main street called Shaughnessy. And there's over 1,000 cars, and the entire Poco Shaughnessy area gets shut down, and there's about 1,000 old, like vintage, beautifully perfect cars all lined up. And so that is typically one of the busiest days of the year for us. That and Super Bowl are the two, I would say, and they're both on a Sunday, which you know, imagine doing the most sales you've ever done on a day that's like a Sunday versus a Friday for bar sales. So yeah, that's typically the busiest one for us.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, there's a few things that go on Sundays throughout the year, but I mean, the Super Bowl, absolutely, that's the day drunk holiday right there. That's a little off-putting. I know a lot of restaurant staff over the years and friends that, you know, have worked in, not just you, but worked in the same industry. And it's that Saturday night. And then, you know, it happens every year. Somebody's got to close Saturday and show up Sunday and just get back at it. And
that's called the clopen.
Yeah.
The close open.
Nice.
I didn't do it in the bar. I did it at the theater though. But yeah, no, it's
you just do it, right?
And you jump right. You get a little bit of rest, and it's hard. Like, if you're closing, what time's your bar close? Are you a 1 o'clock?
We used to be. We now close at 12 on Friday, Saturdays, 11 on Sunday to Thursdays. So it's not too bad.
You're out of there and with the doors locked up. It's sometimes probably 1:30 or 2.
Yeah, I don't stay till the end on Saturdays. I usually get there around between 3 and 4 and stay till about 10 on most Saturdays as a managing body, and then I let my bartenders shut her down on Saturday. I also have to be there on Sunday at 7:30. Because we open at 10, but I have to finish all my paperwork and stuff before we open. So because we do it in the morning instead of at the end of the night. So I know a lot of bar managers will do their financing and closing or opening stuff at the night, but we just rather do it in the morning.
Right. And then, you know, you get home and you can't go right to sleep. There's always that wind down period.
Yeah.
I mean, Lord knows I've wrapped up karaoke shows at 1, been home by 2:30 and not been able to sleep until 4. you know, and I've done the same thing for working at the theater, close on a late night and an early open because some blockbuster long ass movie is out and you're running on like 4 hours sleep and you're just filled with coffee. So yeah, I feel for you. And then you get to jump into Super Bowl and car show. That's just got to be
the Super
control
Bowl.
busy.
Yeah, the Super Bowl is easily the longest day of the year for me. It's generally I get there at 7:30 and I'm probably there till about 9 at
Wow.
night.
It's a long
But
day.
it's planned, right? So it's if you know you're going into the, and it's different, it feels different because it's a party, you know, like you're hosting an
Mhm.
event. So it doesn't feel long. I mean, I'm there all day, but it's just, you know, you're there for an event and you get to watch part of the Super Bowl, and I'm kind of overseeing the event anyways. So
Yeah.
it's not
And-
too bad.
And like you say,
gotta-
like when you're prepared for it, it's a much different situation. If you know you're going to work 14, 15 hours and you know
Yeah.
it's coming, okay, it's not bad. It's just the ones when you get there, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're staying.
Guess what? You're closing. Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't really feel it till after you get home and you sit down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the day sort of wears out. I know that everything below my knees starts throbbing after I've had a day like that, and just like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. And
Is your knee bugging out because of the weather? Or like there's a storm a coming. I can
Yeah,
feel it in my knee.
it doesn't get as bad for
Feel it in
snow,
me
but
bones.
I definitely feel it in the rain. Yeah, 'cause,
Yeah, I bet.
and you know, you
Yeah,
guys,
that's funny.
I think you were both there when I blew it out. Damn it, Randy, you bastard.
Well, I can't
Yeah.
remember.
I can't remember either. but-
It was an overly aggressive game of touch football where two of
Uh,
us were trying to
that's a
grab
shock.
Randy.
That's
and
a
I got my
shocker.
knee kicked out, and
Oh,
then it
God.
got sandwiched as the slightly larger than me dude came down underneath it and on top of it.
That's amazing.
Oh, it was. I limped for a good 8 months. Anyways, let's. It's Saturday morning, so
I have a question for you
Yeah.
guys. Just at the top of my head, just because there's a lot of downtime at the bar, so we ended up talking to a lot of your patrons. And this question came up, so I'm going to offer it to you guys. A random question: who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh God. That's a good question.
Putting you right on the spot
Oh,
here.
it's
Mine was, according to my sister, because I had posters of her on my wall, was Alyssa Milano.
Oh hell yeah.
see, I was trying to think if there was anybody before Alyssa, but that might be the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just a hair older than us, and yeah.
Who's the
that
boss,
might be the one.
baby?
Yeah, I know I was pretty enamored with Cindy Crawford.
There you go.
Mhm.
But we were a little bit older, like when she was like we
Still
were.
relevant though.
Yeah, but I think Milano might be the first one. It might be.
Milano, there was the girl that when I saw Willow for the first time, the redheaded daughter of the evil queen,
Mm.
I was enamored with her.
That was
Shorshana or whatever her name was.
Yeah.
Come on, I know you can do it. The other one that came
Joanne
up.
Wally.
There you go.
Oh wow, look
Yeah.
at you.
Joanne Wally. And
Whether you're
Samira
telling the
Alvin.
truth or not, I'm buying what you're telling.
I'm
So
just gonna believe you.
That's impressive.
The other one that came up was Nicole Eggert from Charles in Charge.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then she went on to Baywatch fame and lots of.
Yes. Yeah.
Lots of stuff.
We're gonna pause this. I'll be right back.
And we're back 35 seconds later. Okay, Matt, take us away.
All right. Anyways, so on this bright Saturday morning, we came up with the idea of going super nostalgic. We're diving into an ancient rite of passage, an ancient tradition, because it flat out doesn't exist anymore. It probably stopped existing 20 years ago. The Saturday morning cartoons. I was one of those little shits that had that internal alarm clock for like 5:30, and my mom is kicking around here somewhere, so she's probably just got a cold shiver because she can probably hear everything through the walls. But yeah, I was 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock. I was up running around. For a while, I would get sent to early morning hockey practice with my dad, and then when I was, probably getting a little closer to 6:30, the Saturday morning cartoons were on. So it was Jammies, bowl of cereal, blanket fort, and just what was on, and that was it till noon.
And it didn't
Ish,
matter what was
11:30.
on because we were watching it anyway. It could have been
Yeah.
the Care Bears for all we knew, but hey, you're still sitting there watching.
I did watch the Care
Time with
Bears.
the Bears.
Me too. Love it.
I did watch the Care Bears. because it was on a time slot that came up and around the Ewoks. Do you remember the Ewoks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So bowl of Fruit Loops and the telly. Let's go.
There's
Yeah.
the board.
So Ewoks was one I watched, but that
Mhm.
wasn't a Saturday morning one. I think that was the Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening one, if I remember correctly. Do you guys
Something like
remember the
that.
Ewoks cartoon?
I do.
Oh, yeah.
They had
Oh, yeah.
it came out. There was a big. I think it was after Jedi. Well, it had to be after Jedi because of the Ewoks, but it was
Yeah.
Ewoks and droids were a package deal.
Yep.
They had a 2-episode block sitting in there.
Yeah.
Saturday, and I think eventually it moved over to Sunday morning. Sunday morning was a little bit tamer. It wasn't. I mean, you get your Care Bears, your Ewoks, your stuff like that. But absolutely, I mean, that was one of the deals right in there. Like we were major Star Wars kids back then.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Yes.
George confirming.
Yeah,
Appreciate that, buddy.
1985, September 7th was the first episode.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't remember if it was Saturday morning or
Yeah.
weekday morning or
Yeah,
Sunday afternoon. I just remember the cartoons as a whole group. I can't remember what was on in the morning and what was on in the evening.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So-
I think that it seems to me that for the original season, the premiere, they would usually be on Saturday mornings, and then they'd move to other time slots, and then they'd move to that coveted,
Yeah.
3:30 in the afternoon,
Mhm.
Monday to Friday, catch the kids coming home sort of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we were discussing earlier, I mean, they even had some first thing in the morning. I remember going to high school, and before I would leave the house, I would sit and I would have my cereal and get my shit ready, and I'd have Conan the Adventurer on TV.
So
And it's like,
good.
okay, Conan hit credits. I need to be out the door because, if I'm not out the door within 4 minutes of Conan being over, I'm missing the bus. And that's
a
just the way it was.
sleeper hit of a cartoon series.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a
And-
huge Conan fan.
Maybe it was just because it just synced up with our age so well, but I remember having to watch it every morning before I
Mhm.
left, and it was just like I got up early so I could watch the 30-minute Conan spot because it was on at 7 or 7:30. I can't remember, but it was on,
It was 7.
or maybe it was even earlier. Actually, maybe it might have been 6:30. I can't remember, but yeah, it was. I guess you and I are the only. Did you ever watch the Conan?
I
No.
looked it up. I had no. It does not ring a bell to me.
It was only on for like a year, I think,
Yeah.
right? But it was on
Yeah.
every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this holds true for a lot of these shows we're going to talk about. According to my notes, Conan the Adventurer premiered in 1992, one season of 65 episodes. So they were cranking them
That's
out,
a lot of season.
a couple
Yeah.
of double episodes in there, and just to round it out. And it's one of those ones I wish I could find again. I would love to sit down and watch it. I've done that with a few things over the years. I never actually
Yeah.
finished G.I. Joe watch through or
Oh, there's another good one.
Transformers.
Oh, it's yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah,
That's funny. The metric for the animation level was a lot lower the bar in the 80s and 90s than it is now.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know, like
yeah,
it was
absolutely.
like you could just slap something together in a couple days and put it out and you're fine. As long as you have the
Yeah.
voice actors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and which is weird to me because it seems like it would be a little more time intensive. However, there wasn't the attention to detail. Like you can watch Transformers and the wrong voices is coming out of the wrong Transformer, or somebody's colors are swapped out wrong, or they're saying a name and the guy's not in the shot.
Yeah.
And you see that and it's not just Transformers that did it. He-Man was guilty of that. He-Man also super guilty of reusing the same stuff every episode multiple times.
I think a lot of those old shows did because they didn't have the budget to, draw up new stuff.
Yeah, I mean they're in a foot chase in He-Man, and He-Man's running at the camera, and he stops, and he looks left, and he looks right, and then he bolts, and they just changed the background on it.
Yeah.
And
Oh, they
they'll-
didn't
they'll run
even
that.
do that for a lot of things. Whenever he morphed into He-Man, it would go back to the stock
yeah.
footage of him holding the sword for the power of Grayskull, and it
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
they used the same animation for that every episode. So
But you got excited when it was happening though. It was like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah,
Right?
it's on.
Exactly.
It's on. That's like hats
Yeah.
backwards now, son.
Shit's about to get real.
Yeah. So No, we mentioned, I think the big three really so far, just in that last little bit talking about Conan, Transformers, GI Joe, and He-Man.
You
Mhm.
missed one. This is my top one of all time.
Oh, by all means, what do we got?
DuckTales.
You know what? I love the DuckTales.
You know what?
And-
Woohoo!
Yeah,
I got that whole Disney block a little set a little to the
You got
side.
okay. We'll touch about that later.
We'll get
Yeah.
into that because I got some thoughts.
Yeah.
But with Transformers, GI Joe, and He-Man, they were
Mhm.
30-minute commercials.
Yeah,
That's all they
absolutely.
were.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the toy lines that came out, GI Joe hammered through thousands and thousands of different toy designs.
Mhm.
Now, a
Now,
lot of
they
that was
were-
based out
they
of
were-
coming out of comic book, but
They were made into toys before the cartoon came out.
Absolutely. Yeah,
right?
they were
all three of those. I think they were like
yes,
toy brand first before.
yes.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% correct. Transformers came out of Japan with that. There's actually a really cool series on Netflix, The Toys That Made Us, that covers all three of these. I think
Really?
there's also one of the shows that made us that cover these, where you can go back and see exactly how they intertwine. But I mean, it was the 80s. Marketing was a huge thing. Star Wars was right in there like a dirty shirt too. But
Mhm.
these are the big three cartoons in my head that's like, we are cranking them out to the point where G.I. Joe the movie and Transformers the movie were designed to roll out a whole next phase. Now, it bit Transformers square in the ass when they killed Optimus Prime. Like that didn't
Yeah.
fly. And you could see in the season after that, or the second season after the movie came out, they had to resurrect Prime.
Mhm.
And it was an absolute flub on their part. They're like, oh, we
Oops.
screwed this up.
Yeah.
That may be one of the most beloved cartoon characters of all time, Optimus Prime,
Oh, absolutely.
from the fan base. Like
Even
he's
for
just
people that didn't watch Transformers, know
Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
If you know one Transformer, you know
Optimus
Optimus
Prime, yeah.
Prime. What
Absolutely.
an icon that is. Yeah.
it's him or Bumblebee, right? It's one of the two. But I would think
Yeah.
Prime is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gord out there in Hope. Gord, bit of a celebrity, got his name mentioned on Talk Is Jericho last week for being fucking rad on the cruise. Good for you, Gord. He's got the
Congratulations.
toys, and he's got them all on DVD.
I have them
started
somewhere too.
getting Transformers on DVD, and I just never finished the collection. My bad. But I mean,
Yeah.
eventually, I think there's a market there for the streaming service if they're not on something already.
They have
Guys
to be
like us will
somewhere.
sit down and hammer through that. Transformers, one of the longer running series in my notes. It got 4 seasons and a movie for a total of 98 episodes. Like,
Yeah.
that's over 4 seasons, 98 episodes. They took a lot of time with that. Clearly, I don't know if it was, just in the animation or they just weren't ready to rush it. But I mean, we look at some of these things, as I said, with Conan, 65 episodes in a season.
Yeah.
So this is a little more reasonable coming out of Transformers.
I guess back then they just their mentality is just hammer out as many as you can in such a small pocket of space. Just go nuts. Just go like, we need a new episode every day or once a week, basically. 'Cause 60, you're basically getting a new episode once a week for that run. So that's the mentality. Just crank it out and then we'll move on to something else.
You'll be delighted to know that you can watch Transformers, the cartoon, on Tubi for free.
Oh, Tubi. I have Tubi.
I just looked it up. So it's on Tubi. It looks like all 4 seasons.
Hey, I did a thing yesterday. I subscribed to Disney Plus.
Good for you.
Nice.
Good for you.
Unsubbed from World of Warcraft and subbed to Disney Plus.
nice. Yeah, you and me both. I'm done with the Warcraft too.
I haven't played
wow.
Warcraft
Okay.
for about a month and
All
a
right, well,
half, I think. So, yeah,
That's
Like
something
this.
to
We're growing
unpack
up.
at some
I think we're
point.
growing up, Seb.
we'll see if we go back. to
Sure.
No, I'm done. I deleted it. It's all gone. I am over it. It's over. But good for you. Disney Plus is an awesome streaming service.
Well, I didn't realize, and I'm sorry to derail the conversation here, but I didn't realize that it offers so many movies outside of the
Yeah.
Disney
Oh,
bracket.
Oh, yeah.
Like the entire Alien series is on there.
Mhm.
As because I was looking at Fincher movies because that's something we're looking at,
Yeah.
and he directed
Alien 3,
Aliens
baby.
3.
So
Yeah, and
good.
it's on Disney Plus. All of the Aliens are on Disney
Yeah.
Plus. I'm like, oh, I should
Yeah.
probably get this because there's
Yeah.
so many things I want to watch on Disney Plus as well. So
Yeah, Disney did a
Yeah.
smart thing, and they have Star on there as well. So it's more
Yeah.
adult oriented.
Yeah.
I think the big fear with Disney Plus was, okay, so it's all Disney cartoons. You're gonna I'm gonna pay $9 a month to be
Yeah.
driven absolutely mental by my 8-year-old. No, that wasn't the case. They added the Star Wars. They added the they added Star. They added Marvel. Some of the old National Geographic. Sarah says we aren't allowed to grow up because that means I have to, which is true because Sarah's much, much older than me. Younger than you guys, but much, much older than me.
I will tell you this about the three of us to everyone that's listening to this podcast. We are going to be youthful at heart for the rest of our
Absolutely.
lives. That's just the way
Absolutely.
we have been grown up, and that's just the way we're going to be.
I got Count Chocula and Frankenberry bobbleheads behind me, so it's not like I've grown up a whole ton. So
Fantastic.
Those are
Well,
all
hey,
my everything
pulled
behind me.
off
All
a
these
lot of Fruity
electronics are
Pebbles
all
this
my
week.
gamer stuff.
So
And-
we're a long ways away.
Yeah.
Comic books.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no
There you
worries. We are not growing up anytime soon. Plus, I got my mom in the house now, so I'm not the adult in charge. At
That's
least
all. That's all
temporarily. I
full
got a
circle
couple
for you
days
today,
left.
then, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So is there any other sleeper hits you guys remember from back in the day?
Like I'm a huge Scooby Doo fan. I kind of
Okay.
always have been. I watched because it was on. Of course, it was made well before we were born, and it was old by the time we were kids. But I love those old retro, Bugs Bunny, the Roadrunner stuff, all those like the old '60s, like the Jetsons. I
I
love
did
all
watch
that.
the Jetsons.
Yeah, and it wasn't on very long. It was on for one season. I think it was like, I don't know, 30 episodes, and then it was done.
Mhm.
But when you're a kid, it seems like, man, the show is always on. And it's never the same one twice. But yeah, for me, I'm a big retro cartoon guy. I love that stuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
there was
yeah,
a
I
big
mean-
there was a big market for like family stuff. The
George saying
Flintstones,
12, but let's keep his wife's opinion out of that. Good for you.
like the Flintstones, the Jetsons. Those are all like family oriented, where like you take a family and put them in a scenario like
Yes.
in the prehistoric times or in the future. So I did watch those. There's one that I loved, but I never watched a lot of. Was Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, yeah, that was
Yeah.
stemming out of Animaniacs.
Animaniacs, yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
been
that was
revived.
a
It's
little
not
later
the
into
same
it.
as it used to be, but yeah, that was a good one. I love the
I-
Brain. He's so
I
awesome.
really think that Seth MacFarlane really channeled that cartoon to design
Oh.
Stewie.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
So-
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and Mike mentioned Scooby Doo, and that went through a bunch of iterations. Again, lots of reused gags and stuff.
Mhm.
But Scooby, they added Scrappy Doo later on down the line, and then just trying to give themselves a little bit of an edge somewhere in the mid '80s. The 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, where they brought Vincent Price in, and it was Scooby and Shaggy and Scrappy, and they were just out hunting down ghosts they had somehow released. This wasn't an old man in the mask thing. This was a legit supernatural thing. Also, Scooby Doo, check out their episode of Supernatural. That was a fun one. But it's Scoob's classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the Jetsons, anytime, we're adults, so the money does not stay in the wallet very long. I refer to myself as George Jetson all the time.
Yeah.
It's just, I got the wallet out and 5 for you, 5 for you, and 5 for me, and the rest goes out the door with the wife.
Yep.
Which to be fair, she makes more money than me at this point, so it's kind of backwards, but
all right.
it's how it happens.
Yep.
Right? Like,
Absolutely.
you can make reference for these, and I didn't realize how many or how few some of these things were. One that really hit for me, and I didn't realize till it was basically in reruns every time I watched it, was the Super Friends, old DC superheroes.
Oh, geez.
So
Okay.
the Hall of Justice, the Wonder Twins, Superman, Batman, the whole
Is that the
deal.
Justice League?
Yeah, it was basically the Justice League.
Okay. Yeah. I think I remember that. I remember watching it.
Yeah, and that got 88 episodes over, it looks like about 10 years, 75 to 85.
Wow.
So they were, I think, a little hit and miss and brought some in and out. But I mean, that one, I remember getting the toys for that too. And that was a huge deal because Marvel had Spider-Man. But I mean, back then, I didn't really understand why Spider-Man wasn't fighting with Batman on the other TV show either. Right?
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
took a little while for that. That was probably my first introduction into comic books and superheroes. And that was clearly, as you can see behind me for everybody watching, it was all downhill from there.
Yeah, bit of a influence. Totally.
Just a tad, right? Yeah, and so the Muppet Babies as well, guys. Like,
Yeah.
took the puppets away and gave us the cartoons. That there was a lot of those little adaptions as well from. I don't want to say Muppets is like adult, but Muppets was different. It
What was it? It had grown-up
It-
celebrities on there, right?
Yes.
And yeah, it was more geared towards the parents as opposed to the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was something that you could watch as a family
Mhm.
where they were. It's kind of that Shrek design where you can sit and watch it with your kids because there's stuff in there that is for the parents that the kids are going to miss.
Yeah.
And the
jokes go
kids
over
are
their
just
heads.
happy that, you know, the pigs in space is on or Gonzo's getting blown across the stage in a cannon.
Yeah.
Or whatnot. But I mean, there was lots of stuff like
Yeah.
the A-Team had a cartoon for a little while. Knight
did.
Rider had his own cartoon
Yeah.
for a while. So
The
they would take
Ghostbusters
stuff-
had a cartoon for a while.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
That's now here. Now we got a can of worms here.
Because
Now, do you guys remember that there was 2 Ghostbuster cartoons?
I only
Didn't
remember
Slimer have his own show?
uh,
Or am I on
He might
crack?
have, but there was one called the Ghostbusters, and I believe there was a gorilla in the mix on that one, and then there was the real
Oh, right,
Ghostbusters,
the real
which was
Ghostbusters.
Egon and
yeah, that's the
Venkman.
one that I watched.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was one of those things, and they aired at the same time. Both aired in '86. I mean,
Which
the
is
real
weird. Why would
Ghostbusters-
you just split it into 2 in the same year? It's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
doesn't make any
it's,
sense.
Probably different companies, maybe, I guess.
Probably.
knew there was something I was going to look up for this exact thing, but give me a quick second here. But yeah, they did. They were
Yeah.
completely different shows.
Yeah.
It was a weird thing because you'd go through the TV guide or the paper, and Ghostbusters on, rad. Ghostbusters is on, and then you get there,
Gotta turn it on.
not the case.
Yeah.
And it's very much.
I don't
what
even
is
remember the
this?
other one.
No. me
Like,
neither.
was it
Very
actually
People do.
similar to the world?
Not
that the-
really. Give me a second here. I found one of their promo posters here
Ghostbusters.
on IMDb. Ghostbusters from 1986. So this one hides because it's been right in there with it was right in there over top of the movie and over top of the cartoon. So you got a gorilla, you got
Oh, wow.
your
I don't
Fred-
remember this at all.
No.
The
Filmation.
car looks familiar to me, but I don't. It's not ringing too many bells. But again, there's not a lot of bells in my head to ring. So whatever.
But
Okay, so I looked
ahead.
it up. I looked it up because I'm looking at the wiki here because I'm super interested. So when Columbia Pictures started producing the film Ghostbusters in 1984, it neglected the fact that Filmation has already produced a live-action comedy series with the same name in '75.
Oh,
Yeah, so I guess Columbia agreed to license the name for 600,000 plus a % of the profit.
good for them. They made out pretty well.
This deal did not include giving Filmation the rights to make an animated series based on the film.
So hence the gorilla and the old car.
Yeah, I guess.
yeah.
So I guess that's why they called it the real Ghostbusters. That makes sense.
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
some legal things in there, and Gord backing me up. Thanks, Gord. Appreciate that. And it was, and I do believe that. Now there's a whole like the toys that made us, the films that made us, the shows that made us. They're all things on Netflix, and
Yeah.
they're one of them and I don't remember which one it is because Ghostbusters does cross into this, but there is a Ghostbusters episode on that, and they touch on this and the legalities of it. I don't remember
I can't
very much of
imagine
it.
that Dan Aykroyd knew about it when he wrote Ghostbusters.
Probably not.
Like when
he did, because that was sort of right in his formative years of becoming a who knows. Even if he did, whatever. Aykroyd's just such a great writer.
Yeah, I mean, if let's say worst case scenario, he decided I'm going to rip this off, he did it way better.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
talk about a home run concept for a movie. Like that is
Absolutely.
that right there is what every screenwriter or writer dreams of. Is just all you need to do is just pitch the tagline, and the studio execs is like, this is going to sell.
Yeah. And honestly, the perfect cast, like the 4 Ghostbusters, Annie Potts, everybody.
Oh yeah, Rick Moranis stole the show in that.
Sigourney Weaver, even. It's just it's the most amazing cast.
Yeah, and Sigourney was coming off being a badass in Aliens, right? And that was a very different role for her. Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm going over. Let's talk about this Disney stuff, because Disney did put out a whole schwack of stuff. Much of it based on existing properties like Tailspin, which is a Jungle Book thing. DuckTales, which clearly came out of Donald, Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Best cartoon ever made. Fight me.
Yeah, I remember watching that at your house when we were.
And you know what? Best Nintendo game ever made.
Well,
yeah. Oh yeah. No,
I don't know.
The original DuckTales game, that's a highlight.
I'm probably gonna go with The Legend of Zelda, but that's okay.
Yeah, I would say Zelda's probably the best ever.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it spawned one of the ones that I absolutely loved that wasn't based on an existing property was Gummy Bears.
Oh,
you remember that one?
No.
So little.
You had cable. I don't think I had cable to watch all this shit. So it was.
Well, that
Gummy Bears. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
Is this a deep dive?
No, it's not, because it was.
I don't remember this.
Well, hold on. Let me cue something up for you.
Please do.
The Adventures. I'm looking.
Let me mute that.
Is that like
that was a commercial?
Is that like a Care Bears ripoff almost?
No, not at all. So it was a medieval thing, evil king, and sheriff and whatnot. And let's see here, we're screen sharing. So I'm gonna let you watch this. See if it jogs any memories here.
Now, but they used to exist. Everyone knows that.
Everyone knows that. Everyone knows they're just fairy tales.
Oh, I've never seen a human close up before.
Humans are nothing but trouble.
Gruffy Gummy, you have the manners of a...
Wow! Gummy bears! Wait, you're my heroes! Please!
Gotcha!
But I wish we could help them.
The ancient gummies would have.
Dashing and daring, courageous and caring.
Strive to make
You can count on me.
Through the forest, they sing out in chorus.
What's going on right
Who
now?
are those attackers?
the gummy bear.
Gummy bears, bouncing here and there and everywhere. High adventure that's beyond compare.
He's all right.
Today, we help a young boy save his kingdom.
High adventure that's beyond compare. They are the gummy bears. They are the gummy
Dude, I do not remember that.
Wow.
I have no idea.
No,
Nothing.
No, I don't even know.
Gord's having flashbacks. Sarah's singing along. I got goosebumps.
What year?
I mean,
when was that out?
Gummy Bears was 85 to 91, so they were part of the Disney afternoon as well. So when Disney moved Tailspin and DuckTales to that after school block, they was in there. So and then you kind of see it. They drink this gummy berry potion and they can bounce all over the place. But if a human drinks it, he becomes super strong. So, I mean, I'm going to recommend you go back and check this out. I tried to get my kids into it, but they were, a little down the rabbit hole of whatever was on Treehouse. I failed as a parent in that one.
Oh, don't worry, I'm right there with you, buddy. It's fine. Treehouse is the bane of my existence, or was anyway. The worst.
Now, so are the kids missing out on Saturday morning cartoons?
No, because they're on all the time. It's even better. You can watch
No,
them.
but that's what I mean. We had to treasure these things. We had to have our time slots down. If our favorite show was on at 3:30, we had to truck out of school and get home.
Well, they couldn't
Well,
handle the way we grew up, like not having everything at your fingertips right away. They knowing the world they know now, they would explode if they had to go back to 85.
Yeah, you're not at the mercy of time slots for TV shows. You just watch, binge stream, whatever you want.
Watch Phineas and Ferb was on every morning in my house, and
there's no real excitement of having to get up every morning. But I don't know. I like the way it is now, because then you can just watch it on your own time frame.
Yes.
But it does miss that element of excitement when you have to wait till next week for that episode. So here's a question. Do you prefer, I may have asked you guys this already, I can't remember. Do you prefer the 1 a week episode, or do you like the Netflix, here's the entire season, go for it?
I like waiting. I really do. Like when Mando comes out next week, it's 1 episode a week for
do you?
Yeah, I do. I prefer to wait. But also it is also fun to have 12 episodes dropped in your lap and going, here at your leisure, man. Just give her. You want to do it tonight? Do it tonight.
Yeah, I guess for cliffhangers, it's probably better just to get the dump.
But I also think for the cliffhangers, the anticipation of waiting, oh God, I got to wait a week, or like when we used to watch The Walking Dead, when they did the mid-season finales, was annoying. There's no reason for the show to go away for 4 months. But
the Game of Thrones scenario was the most interesting because it was on Sundays. It was such a viral global thing that you were almost forced to watch it on the Sunday.
Yeah.
Because if you waited a day, everyone's talking about it. There's no shot you're not gonna go spoiler free for like 24 hours without watching that. So you're almost forced to, like, I have to watch it now while it's on, or I can't even go on social media because somebody's gonna say something about it. So
yeah, I had that problem on vacation. Obviously I wasn't able
Royal
to watch
Rumble.
several of my favorite shows, and I got a lot of spoilers through the wrestling. However, as Gord's saying here, there's no fear of missing out these days. None. There is, and what you're talking about, the term that's used in the industry is appointment television.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You had to be there. If you weren't there, that was gone, possibly forever, as far as we knew back then.
It's
Especially
also
when it predated videos, VHS releasing TV shows. Like, I remember that one of the first things they did was put kids shows, 2-3 episodes a piece, because my brother wore out copies of He-Man in the video store. So you can go get 3 episodes of He-Man, but you weren't getting that with, Falcon Crest or whatever the parents were watching, right? So we had this appointment television for Saturday morning. We had this appointment television for whatever. And as Sarah's saying here, our kids now don't have the connection to the shows like we did. I had this conversation with the youngest the other day, he's 5, about Friends and how we connected more with the characters. And there's a discussion week to week that helps us emotionally. Absolutely. We were absolutely going into school. I remember one of the big topics was leading into the Transformers movie, because the big thing on the trailer was, does Prime die or is it Megatron? Nobody saw Prime dying coming. No. And then when they introduced the character of Serpentor, it was a 3 or 4 episode thing as Cobra was grabbing all the parts and DNA to make.
Yeah.
I mean, my youngest, my 14-year-old. So we're seeing 1 episode, and now I seem to remember having to wait a week, but it might have just been a day. Going to school the next day, it's like, oh my God, Cobra got the Alexander the Great stuff. How are the Joes going to stop him? They're not. right? And we don't have
Yeah.
that these days because you can just pick it up and watch the streaming. As far as your question, Seb, it depends on the show. Some shows I need to see right away and watch. Other shows, as much as I like them, I know that I need to get that next episode like crack. What's The Last of Us? I hammered through the first 4 episodes of that, and it's just making me nuts right now to have to wait a week.
Is it that good?
I'm enjoying it. It is worth.
heard
It's
it's
worth
very
your
good.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's not completely different from a lot of disease apocalypse, zombie apocalypse stuff out there,
Well, you
but
can only
there's
expect it
a
so far, right?
definite connection.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And that's the important thing with those apocalypse shows is the connection. It's not about, God, I got zombies or whatever. It's do
Mhm.
you connect with these people and do you empathize with their situations and do you feel you could live in that situation? And 99% is like, no, fuck that.
yeah,
They
Oh, yeah,
did get
everybody
the
wants
right. They did get the right actor to play that part though, and with Pedro Pascal.
Mhm.
And from a video game perspective, I know The Last of Us is one of the best stories for a video game that they've ever created. Like it's
Mhm.
often been. I've never played the game,
Me either.
but it's often been hailed as like
Mhm.
you play it for the story. It's phenomenal. Like you're emotionally involved in the story as you're playing the game.
Wow.
So if they can emulate that to that effect on the TV series, they have a home
Mhm.
run, I think.
And a lot of what I've been seeing is there's screenshots taken from the game and put against stuff that is taken from the show, and they're damn near identical. Down to the
Yeah, for
dialogue, which is great. I
yeah.
mean,
Except for the third episode, apparently they kind of went off on their own because I can't remember for various reasons that it wouldn't work if they did it the way the video game did it. Because there's like a bunch of side quests or stuff that kind of derail the story. So they're like, well, we gotta. And I haven't seen it, so I can't make a comment on it. But I heard that they shifted some things a little bit for the TV series to make more sense from a TV standpoint,
Yeah, that
story
happens a lot.
standpoint.
I mean,
So
that's going to happen regardless. And
I think
honestly,
so.
I mean, you talk about it shifting from books and video games like that.
Yeah.
I think the key is if you stick too close to the book, if you stick too close to, well, use source material. Let's use source
Mhm.
material, whether it's video game, comic book, whatever. You should
Yeah.
stick too close to the original source material. You're not going to have those cliffhangers. You're not going to have that. Well, I know what's going to happen here because of this.
Unless you
I've-
have it, unless
yeah,
you're one
I've
of those
already
few that haven't read or seen or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's one of the things that people get really upset. I mean, Game of Thrones, like, oh, that's not the same in the book. Yeah, but then you've already read the script. Why are you watching the show?
But Thrones was pretty faithful, I think, with especially
It
in the
was.
first
For the first couple
up until they
seasons,
got
yeah.
up to with the Jon Snow part. Till then, that's when book 5 ended. But up until then, even I had read the books, watching the show, and I knew what was coming. But man, it just to see that the excitement of knowing what's coming and watching with someone that hasn't read the books, there's no idea.
Yeah, you're like watching like this.
Like
you're
the
just
like
looking
the,
at
the
them
red
whole
wedding.
time.
You're watching the red wedding, and I just remember the wife's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" And it's like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
right?
See,
And
and
it's-
that's one of the things where it's
awesome.
like, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. And
Yeah.
then
And they did it so
because
faithful to the book. They
made
had on the spike,
Yeah.
the heads on the spike, everything, right? They put the head on the wolf. It was just awesome.
Well, I mean, just the way they
Spoiler
dealt with
alert.
the young queen in that one. It's like, it's one thing to write it. It's another thing to put it on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
Right.
a lady I was dating when I was rewatching it, and she's never read or seen Game of Thrones, and obviously I'm very vastly knowledged in it, and she was a easily anxious person,
Uh-oh.
so my demeanor was all like, she's like, I know something's coming. I know something's coming.
Oh, yeah,
It's just
it's hard.
Oh.
You just
It,
wait.
it can be hard to suppress those, especially if you really enjoyed it, or you're like, oh, I hate this.
Well, she could feel my anxiety and my anticipation like building, and she was like, okay, something's gonna happen. And then
Yeah.
it would just magnify the moment because
Mhm.
your energy is just like, oh my god, it's happening.
Absolutely.
It's
well,
like
I
something's happening. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Sarah and I experienced this a little while back. We watched Top Gun with a group of us, and we have
new one?
Our good buddy Greg. Shout out to him. He's a great dude, very sensitive, and at one point he got up and left the room. Sarah and I
Jeez.
looked at each other and we're like, "Oh, something's going down." And he got up and left because he couldn't handle seeing Iceman on screen.
Yeah,
So
that's
him getting up and leaving the
yeah.
room, like it was he doesn't do that. Like but we know him well enough to know that, okay, something's going to hit him right in his core being. And we know him well enough to know. And then the second we saw what the scene was shifting to, we're like, oh, okay, everybody's going to cry. And
That may
that-
win Best Picture just because of that one scene.
you know what? It's
Hollywood really likes to give it to relevant actors that are dealing with, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I just think
Yeah.
it really hits the mark.
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, and like Sarah's saying here, yeah, she did start crying as soon as Greg got up and left because like, oh, this is going to be not good.
Well, I cried both times I saw the movie, so
Yeah.
it was even more powerful the second time. It was just because, yeah.
And that was about the time that for Christmas, my mom sent me my grandfather's old military desk set of pens and whatnot, so that it got all over me. And I didn't know what it was. I opened up the box and I started crying. So having seen Top Gun shortly after that, yeah, it got all over us. So that buildup of tension you tend to get, especially if you've seen it or are sitting with somebody that can't hide that stuff. Now, I'm not talking about somebody's like, oh my God, you got to watch this. You got to watch this. You got to watch this. This is the part where this happens. It's like, I might poke the person next to me, like, pay attention if they're
Now,
drifting.
was there ever a Top Gun cartoon?
No.
I feel like that could have been.
I
It's
feel
called G.I.
like
Joe.
there could have been too. That's
Okay, here's a question. Do you have any IPs in your life that you think could be developed into a cartoon or should be developed into a cartoon?
Ooh.
You could do that from the video game world too. I mean, Warcraft comes to mind.
Yeah.
I don't
even
know
something
why
like-
they.
some-
Well, I
something
mean,
like
Warcraft did
Doom.
do a movie,
Yes.
and which was so heavily CGI'd that it might have well have been a cartoon.
Yeah,
but
but the
how else do you
CGI was
do that
actually
movie?
quite incredible, though.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well,
Like
it
they
was
really
great.
did
It
a
was-
good job.
Yeah,
Get-
it's a
That's
shame.
where all the money had to go.
Do you know who directed that?
Duncan Jones,
And who's Duncan Jones?
David Bowie's son.
There you go.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well done.
Massive Warcraft fan, by
Yeah.
the way.
And of course, the movie wasn't very good, and his hands were tied. Right? There was too many hands in the cookie jar for that. I think if
Yeah,
they,
there's
I
a
think if
lot
it's
of
been made now,
leading.
you can make it into a series, and you could follow Thrall or whoever.
Yeah.
You make an animated series out of it, or even a game like Doom. Doom would be an amazing cartoon.
Yeah.
I
could
know
see
they made
that.
Halo into a show, but yeah, those kinds of games, Gears of War, whatever, even a Call of Duty cartoon would be kind of cool.
I'm surprised they haven't made a Diablo anime.
I've heard there's rumors of
I
that
thought
at
they
Netflix.
had.
They were
Have
talking.
they? I haven't.
They were
heard about
talking
it.
about it. They haven't. There is no Diablo.
Because that-
Castlevania. You get to
Castlevania is a thing.
Castlevania is awesome.
Yep, Castlevania. I was really enjoying that one. Gord mentioned a while back up in the comments another video game, possibly the first video game one that really hit for the Saturday morning cartoons. The Super Mario Brothers
There
Super
you
Show
go.
with Captain Lou Albano. That gave us the Mario Brothers.
Oh, the
doing their
wrestling
stuff.
cartoon. Sorry.
Oh, Hulk Hogan talking wrestling. Absolutely.
There you go.
Totally
I-
forgot about that.
It crossed my mind a minute ago, but I wanted to steer away from that. But yeah, absolutely, Hulk Hogan, like that was one of the ones that really got my fandom hooked because that came out not long after WrestleMania 1, right? Like that was Hogan and Andre and Piper and Orndorff and Snuka and Wendy Richter and the Fabulous Moolah, and it was great. The Iron Sheik, it was, going back, I watched a couple episodes years ago, hot garbage.
Oh
but
Yeah.
it capitalized in there. It was in that 80s marketing. Like, we need the cartoon.
Mhm.
We need, this is what's hot. We're going to throw our hat in the ring. I just watched the season finale of The Young Rock, and it goes over how The Rock broke into Hollywood because Vince is like, no, we need to market. We need to cross promote. Come on, pal. We're going to send you out here. You're going to do the net. You're going to do Star Trek. You're going to do
Your
this, that,
Vince
and the other
McMahon
thing.
impersonation is uncanny. It's on point.
It's amazing.
Hey, pal.
We need
I
you
don't
in
know,
a suit.
they-
You're gonna be inside of a giant egg for Thanksgiving. That's the plan. That's where we're going with that.
you know who legitimately thought he was screwed with that gimmick?
The Rock? No,
The
wasn't The Rock.
Undertaker. The Undertaker legitimately thought he was going to get fucked over.
Oh my
Because
god.
the Undertaker debuted that same Survivor Series. It wasn't. It was actually Hector Guerrero, older brother of Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
That was in the egg. Undertaker clear, but there was a period of time where Undertaker was in talks to come in, and they had this egg on TV, and nobody had told him what was happening yet. So he was just like, "Oh fuck no." Oh,
Please
fuck
God,
no."
not me.
It
Please
was
God,
Mork.
not me.
Shout
It was
out to
more
my
from Orc.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. I
So-
don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff that have been made in cartoon. Like Star Wars has done a ton of cartoons.
So there's one video game adaptation into an anime series, and anime is a little bit different than
No, that's fine.
cartoons.
I'm here for it.
But it is okay. Have you guys ever heard or played of League of Legends?
Oh, I've heard of it. Arcane.
Yeah.
Arcane's a good show.
Yes,
Yeah.
Arcane apparently is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a good show. It's
Have
on
you
Netflix.
watched it, Mike?
I've watched a few episodes, and it's really good. It's really good storytelling, and it's
Yes,
engaging.
still.
Like it's for old people like us, it's engaging.
Yeah, it hit number
Okay.
1 on the Netflix top 10 in the week that it premiered.
Yeah, it's a good show. It's
Oh,
well
you
made.
know what? I've scrolled past that now that you mention it.
Give it a shot.
I mean,
Yeah, it's only
Um,
nine episodes for season 1, but apparently it is what is it? It's first. Okay, hold on. I'll read this. The series became the first streaming service to win a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Animated Program,
Mhm.
and won an Emmy for Best General Audience Animated Television Broadcast Production. So there's legs to it. And for some of you that don't know, Riot is making an MMO. Might be the first one to actually overtake World of Warcraft in that department.
No, I think it's time. That game is Warcraft. Anyway, this is a discussion for another show. But
It's a discussion for another show.
yeah, we'll leave it there.
So I've had two thoughts in that. I did think of a property that could be made into an animated that I would like to see. I would like to see a Daredevil animated show.
So MCU.
MCU, but I would like it to be a little closer to the Spawn animated show. Not quite, because
Ooh.
Spawn got into
Yeah.
the horror.
I
That
do
was an
remember the Spawn
and
animated show.
And you know what? That
Yeah.
show built slow, and in the third season, it had a hell of a cliffhanger, and they canceled it. Anytime I ever see it, I was like, what show would you bring back for one more season to wrap up Spawn animated series? Absolutely, give me 12 more episodes of that.
Yeah.
But I would like to see something Daredevil done like that, where they can tell a better story. The Netflix does a great job. I didn't mind the comedic slant to him in She-Hulk, because there is that, but Daredevil has a very, very rich, deep story that is really hard to touch on. And I think they could do a really good job with I wouldn't say quite the X-Men animated series style, but maybe closer to the Batman animated series, somewhere along that.
So I think today the cartoon something is kind of lost. I think in today's TV world,
Mhm.
like I remember in the 80s and 90s, if any IP was successful, you're like, put a cartoon out for it.
Yep.
Like, Indiana Jones had a cartoon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, James Bond Jr. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
everybody
it's
did.
just
Absolutely
it's
did.
successful. It's a good IP. Put it on a cartoon, and
Yeah.
people will watch it. So, but that I don't think that's the norm anymore.
No.
No.
It's not the thought process.
And
I
even-
mean, wrestling, perfect example, right? Wrestling got hot. Put it on a cartoon. People are going to watch it, right?
Do
And
you
it's such
guys
a
watch many of the Star Wars like cartoons now, like the Bad Batch, or even
not now. No,
the Clone
I
Wars?
started the Bad Batch, but I hadn't. I keep hearing so much about
I do have
Rebels
Disney
and the
Network now.
Clone
Rebels-
Wars, but I've never
oh,
gotten
God.
into it.
Rebels is amazing. It takes 2 seasons to get into it, but once, because it grows up a little bit, like this, like the content gets a little less kind of like, it's very 10-year-old
Yeah.
kiddish in the first couple, but then when it starts to get real and the threat of the Empire and stuff like that, and there's more Jedi talk, it gets like, there was a couple episodes in like the last season, you're just like, holy shit, like it's better than any
Right.
Star Wars movie.
And
Yeah.
I believe the Clone Wars has got some branding issues or legal issues because it's not entirely available on Disney Plus. The last time I looked,
That is-
however, if that has changed, somebody correct me because
They
I heard.
because they canceled it in 2014 when
Mhm.
Disney bought Star Wars, and then they resurrected it for one last season last
Okay.
year or the year before to finish it. And that season, I think it was season 7.
Yeah.
Man, because
The
it's
last
right.
season is available. I mean that
The
that
rest
I
of them
can't
should-
find. Uh-oh.
Good luck.
No, he's good.
Yeah, like and even the Bad Batch. The Bad Batch is really good.
Okay, yeah, I started the Bad Batch. I think I got 3 or 4 episodes into it, and it was one of those ones where I was making
but yeah.
I was making the appointment. I had about an hour and a half of quiet time after I got home from work before the kids and everybody got home. My wife was in the office working, so I would start watching that. I fell off at some point. Something I probably needed a nap too many days in a row and just completely forgot about it.
Just have a Snickers bar.
I wanted something Seb said about anime. Clicked with me. Now Saturday, Sunday mornings, there was 2 animated. Now back in the day, we called it Japanimation, which is probably
say
not the
that.
best term to use these days. We're more educated now than the 80s. Astro Boy and Robotech were my.
I did
yeah,
watch
Robotech.
Astro Boy.
Yeah, I like Robotech.
Yeah, I
Even
did
the
watch
GoBots.
Astro
If
Boy.
you want to go, Transformers parallel, look at the GoBots too, right? Voltron,
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, and that was the thing is, I think that's what got me with Robotech. It's like, oh, it's another Transformers show, kind of. But there was, I think the key there was the character development was different. It was geared less towards the fighting robots and more towards what the human aspects of it were, and it sucked you in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's
Yeah.
the hot shot pilot, the singer love interest, these giant aliens that are invading, and that was really kicked it off for me as far as my love of anime.
Yeah, I
never-
watched the first anime I ever remember watching, and oh man, I gotta remember what it is. I think it was called Bastard.
Nice.
Okay.
Anyone's ever heard of it?
Never.
It
heard of
is ridiculously awesome, and I watched it in theater because there was I think there's only 6 episodes. Yeah, they're 30 minutes each, so it was 6 episodes, and I watched it because the people that I was hanging out with at the time was really into anime. So, but yeah, that's for another time.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Miniseries 1992. Yeah, okay. I seem to have something's clicking for me on Bastard there.
It's for lack of from memory can serve me well. It's about like the 4 horsemen or like the end of the world. And it's just over the top. There's like hydras and magicians doing like Goku style, and there's a level of comedy to it as well. It's the main character's name is Dark Schneider, one of them. So it's been so long since I've seen it, but I remember that was my first actual like sit down and watch anime. And I'm like, what am I watching? This is kind of awesome. So,
all right, that's something I might have to look up. That looks actually pretty rad.
So there's something we haven't talked about yet either. For cartoons,
shoot,
Warner Brothers.
Oh yeah,
Tom and Jerry,
Bugs Bunny, the Roadrunner,
Bugs
all
Bunny,
that stuff.
Looney Tunes.
Yosemite Sam.
That was
classic
kind of
stuff.
That's my wheelhouse. I love that shit. They were short and they were to the point. The coyote be chasing the Roadrunner for 5 minutes and then move on to something else.
So am I the only? I can't be the only one that legitimately wanted the Roadrunner to catch or the coyote to catch the Roadrunner.
Oh, just once.
Just one time. Just get him one time.
Catch
but
him
then
and
you don't
just
have a
say,
show
"Gee,
after
I
that.
can do it," and then that's it. Let him go, and then move on to the next one. Absolutely.
Oh, Gord coming in hot with another classic.
Popeye was great. Yep.
Eat your spinach. Still won't eat spinach, but
spinach is good. Come on,
man.
I didn't want to eat spinach because I didn't want my forearms to turn out that way.
You have that tattoo on your arm too. It just magically grow there.
Yeah, there you go. My father has one of those.
He has the anchor.
Oh no, sorry, it's not an anchor. It looks the same, but it's a knife.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, the
You know,
dagger.
and
Popeye
some of
was
those
a good one.
there's some really classic stuff in there, and unfortunately a lot of it you play it now and like
Yeah.
It doesn't track.
this current generation is just like, what is he
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, he's dressing up as a girl bunny. Well, that is, well, for fuck's sakes.
Have you
Like,
guys?
Pepe Le
have you-
Pew got canceled because okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Like looking back at it, yeah, kind of rapey.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, just a little bit. Cat did not want any part of that, but you know,
Have you guys watched The Dictator with Sacha Baron Cohen?
No.
no.
Oh, there's one part in it which he's talking about a warhead, and he's like, it needs to be pointy. It's round. It doesn't look pointy. It goes, no, it's not about the point. It goes, point looks evil. And then he's like, in your research, did you watch where the goes and there's a duck and the duck's bill goes around this way? And he's like, yes, there was some sort of deformity that happened. And he's like, you were watching cartoons.
Nice.
And he's like, no, that was a research. That was research.
And you know, bless Looney Tunes. Like Warner just
Yeah.
can't seem to get Bugs and the gang back on track. Like that last Space Jam was just
I
no.
never
Well,
bothered.
that was the LeBron.
I don't
one.
think
Never
it needed
watched
to be touched. He could have left it
No.
alone. But they can't. They don't seem to be able to get their stuff back on track. They had a good hope. Also going back to the day, Animaniacs and Tiny Toon Adventures
Mhm.
did a really good job of updating
Yeah.
that stuff in the 90s. Animaniacs was frigging hysterical.
Mhm.
And it didn't matter if it was Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, or Pinky and the Brain, or whoever else was in there. Like it was legitimately hysterical. Like I will still get Animaniacs songs stuck in my head, whether it's the capitals of the world or the countries of the world or the capitals of the United States, like that Yakko singing, or I don't remember which one. And then the Tiny Toons Adventures, like fantastic job of updating it and turning it into a Muppet Babies-esque thing.
Yeah.
Buster and Babs Bunny, no relation.
Yeah, there's a
Like-
lot of things with Looney Tunes that just cannot track well now in
No.
today's society.
No.
You know, but back then that was laughed upon, but now it's
Frowned
very
upon.
inappropriate.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but every character had a definite formula in terms of how the show would run. Like Tom would always want to catch Jerry and couldn't. You know, same thing with the Coyote
Mhm.
and the Roadrunner, and Daffy always tried to one up Bugs, but he could never.
And Yosemite Sam was always trying to catch somebody, and then he never could. And, well,
Yeah.
that's probably Bugs
Oh.
Bunny.
And just shooting off guns left, right, and center too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, I mean, how many times did Daffy get shot in the face? As Seb was mentioning earlier, like
An awful lot.
Yeah.
yeah, Daffy got shot in the face a lot. Sometimes the bill would go flying. Sometimes it would just spin around. And
Yeah.
you can't do it. It's funny. Like, nobody in their right mind thinks that if you paint a tunnel on a wall, you're gonna walk through it. Granted, it only ever worked for the Roadrunner,
That's right.
Bugs, but like, yeah, you're gonna smash into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember any kid going, I'm gonna drop an anvil on this sumbitch over here. Like, no, you ain't lifting the anvil, first
Yeah.
off. Second,
I
that's
also
not an
think
idea.
one of a really underrated movie that kind of brought two worlds together was Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it sort of, and the animated and just the technology aspect of it too.
Well, I think it was the first time they've ever done animation and live action together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that could not have been easy to film.
No, it really wasn't. Bob Hoskins, Christopher Lloyd,
Yeah.
and here's a good question. Is it underrated though?
Not
I'm gonna say that it's underrated in the same way the Beatles are underrated. Now hold with me on this one for a second. It's not my theory. Jay
well,
Moore
the
came up with
Beatles
it.
are not underrated.
Aren't they
Oh,
the
no.
greatest rock band of all time?
Well, but that's just the thing, is they're underrated in the fact that they're the greatest rock band of all time. You don't really think about it, but when you sit
Let's just
down,
be
you
clear
actually
that
listen
Matt
to a
has
bunch.
put Who Framed Roger Rabbit on the same level as the Beatles in the world of
Yes.
cinema.
let's let him finish what he's saying because this
Yeah,
is
but it's underrated in the same facet as like, oh, Who Framed Roger Rabbit's a great movie, but you don't think about it. You sit down, you watch it the same way as if you can agree the Beatles are the greatest rock band of all time.
Mhm.
They set the stage for the next 80 years of rock and roll.
Mhm.
But when you actually sit down and listen to these albums and listen to these songs and take the time,
Mike's not gonna like this.
you
No.
really clue in as to how deep that pool actually is.
yes.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
like
I-
it's
without
not
a
just
doubt.
it's not just I'm gonna like it's not going swimming. I'm going swimming. It's like, no, I'm going swimming and I'm out in the middle of the Pacific and
Yeah,
there
and I'm
is
going to the bottom, and I'm
that and that's
Okay.
the same way Roger Rabbit is underrated. It's like it's great and we all acknowledge that, but when you sit down and you really watch it, because it still holds up, a lot of special effects from back in that era
we're bad.
don't hold up.
No, they really
They
don't.
didn't do a great job, especially because it's not the only movie that mixed animation and live action. It just did it the best,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
And it was one of the
it's-
few times also that Warner and Disney came together to do a movie
Yeah.
Yes,
because they went into it together with rights for their IPs.
Yep.
So it's a interesting tidbit. I
Yeah,
guess at
'cause
the time you didn't think about the magnitude of what was going on when you were watching it. Like you have two huge companies collaborating in a movie with technology that it may not have been the first, but it was definitely the first for the general public at that capacity of mass to show
Mhm.
the world like this is
Yeah.
what we're capable of doing, right? So yeah, it was a great movie. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
You can watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit on Disney Plus, Seb. And I feel with all this.
There you go.
I haven't wanted to watch that movie or even thought about it for a long time. I think I want to go back and watch it because
Yeah.
it's been
I-
forever since it's probably pre-kids, so it's been at least 15 years for me since I've.
you know what? I
Seen
would
it.
sit down and watch that with your kids.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's one of the things this whole show is based around is we're giant children, as we mentioned
Mhm.
over an hour ago.
yes,
We refuse to grow up, and there's stuff that doesn't translate to our kids. Like our kids don't understand why Saturday morning cartoon jokes on Saturday morning cartoons are so
No.
nostalgic.
hmm
But they don't have. They had Treehouse, they had Cartoon Network, they have streaming. They don't get it. It's not
Or
a
even-
point with
yeah.
television for them. It's when I get to a television,
Yeah.
right? I showed my
Yeah.
kids Who Framed Roger Rabbit years ago. I had the big deluxe edition, everything, because I wanted to watch the commentaries and behind the scenes stuff, and they loved it. We haven't watched it in forever.
hmm
I mean, it was one of the ones that I was able to pull out and show them that stuck. Princess Bride didn't really stick.
No.
Legend didn't really stick. Star Wars really didn't stick. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit, that stuck.
Interesting.
There's a good message in the movie too. It's just like the whole concept of the movie from a thematic standpoint is like, why do people enjoy cartoons? What's the purpose of cartoons supposed to serve in the world? And you know, paraphrasing here, but it's like it's just to make you happy and to smile
Mhm.
and to have
It's
a
an
good
escape,
time.
right?
It's an escape, right? And you know, it's like you can't. Roger Rabbit is the way he is, and goes, you can't change that from me because that's the way I am. Because I'm there to make people smile, and make people laugh, and make people have a good time.
Yeah.
So
And I'm also going to go back and alter my Alyssa Milano answer from Celebrity Crush. Jessica Rabbit really hits.
I was just thinking the same thing. She was hot.
Yeah, it was not. She
Still-
was not olive oil. No.
still a popular Halloween costume, Jessica Rabbit.
Oh, I
Mhm.
bet.
Yeah,
Still.
and possibly the most famous Easter egg in cinema history is the naked Jessica Rabbit.
In which,
In Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
yeah,
when she's out on stage, watch her reflection in the stage.
Really?
You need an old copy because they took it out.
Oh
But
shit!
if you look at her reflection in the
so
stage,
it's not going to be on Disney Plus then.
she's naked.
Probably not.
No, it's not. You'll probably need my copy of the DVD because it is
That's
on there.
hilarious.
I that was one of the things that, you know, as the internet is starting to become a thing, I learned and I checked my copy. I'm like, oh my God, there, yep. And thank you.
That's in Matt's "Do Not Go In Here" drawer.
It's the Alyssa Milano draw.
That's
Don't go in there.
that's the super cut.
We all have one. That's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Hey, well, you know,
Oh,
love you,
boy.
dear. So I think we've covered a ridiculous amount. Is there anything that Saturday morning cartoon wise that we haven't really hit on? Like, there's thousands of shows.
Oh, sure.
Like,
What
these
about like
things-
I watched like Inspector Gadget was a big one for me.
Yep.
And of course it was incredibly stupid. You knew it as a 10-year-old. It's incredibly stupid, but you just I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah, and it did well. It spawned a half decent movie, and anything after the first movie was not worth
Wasn't
seeing.
that
But I
Matthew
mean,
Broderick was Inspector Gadget?
Yep.
Yeah.
absolutely did. You know, and then there was the Ninja Turtles. You know,
I was just
also
gonna
out
say
there.
the
about
Ninja
that. Yeah.
Turtles.
They did really well. Here's one now. Now, there's a segment in there in the mid '80s as well, as Saturday morning cartoons were really popping off, that the toy companies realized they were only playing to half the market, which was the boys. So then we got shows
I know
like
what
My
you're gonna
Little
say.
Pony.
Oh
Then
no,
we
that's
got shows like Care Bears,
Gem and the
Cabbage
holograms.
Patch Kids.
Gem.
That's where I was going. What was that,
Yeah.
Mike?
Gem and the holograms. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Gem is my name. It's
That's right. And you know what? That was a solid little show. Spawned its own movie, filmed here in Vancouver. Did not turn out well. But then also probably the next most famous one, He-Man's sister She-Ra.
She-Ra, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it felt weird watching these things, but they were still solid.
Yeah.
I mean, the She-Ra toys were designed more off of a Barbie,
Mhm.
so you couldn't really mix most of them with your He-Man. But I mean, they did eventually come around to putting them out so that they were modeled after the He-Man, so you could have Hordak and Bo and She-Ra right in there with Man-at-Arms and Tila without looking like, you know, 20-foot tall monsters next to each other.
Did you ever have the skunk He-Man?
Yes,
He smelled bad,
he
which
did,
is just
yeah.
hilarious.
Awful.
Yeah, he was awful.
Rainbow.
Yeah, and let's not forget Rainbow Bright also in
Yeah.
there. Little going back to the anime stuff. Hello Kitty made a splash as well. That's still going
Yeah.
strong.
There's a couple that haven't been mentioned yet, actually.
Yeah, what do you
There's
got?
3. Actually, Mike mentioned it briefly, but the Smurfs,
Smurfs, hell yeah.
that was a good one. And then I actually watched a lot of Garfield.
Yeah.
Oh, Garfield and Friends, absolutely.
Yeah, that was so good. And I can't believe, Matt, I would have assumed that you would have mentioned this already, but you haven't. Thundercats.
Oh, yeah, that's way up on my list. But yeah, absolutely, Thundercats. Give me sight beyond sight with the sword that
Yeah.
grows, and you know he Lionel does like a He-Man deal where he goes from a kid to a full-grown man. Yeah, no, absolutely.
So what
Wicked
would
cool sword too?
what would you say are like your favorite ones that you watched from a kid that you remembered?
The Smurfs, yeah, the Smurfs. Now that you mention it, holds a real
Mhm.
special place
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
with me. It's like it's one of those ones that brings back me feeling like I was a kid. Like I could say the Jetsons or whatever, Scooby Doo, but no, it's the
Yeah.
Smurfs made me really feel like. And then you play it on Coleco when Coleco had the Smurfs
Coleco.
game.
Oh, the ColecoVision.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
That's a topic for another show too.
absolutely.
We could do like old video game consoles, but
Commodore 64.
oh yeah,
No, I the Smurfs, yeah, that holds a super special place. And like they ran long. I think they were like hour-long episodes, even
it
if they
seemed like
had
it, didn't it?
like broken up into 15 or 20-minute segments.
Yeah.
I remember them
Yeah.
being on Sunday mornings. Like Sunday mornings
Mhm.
was kind of the mellower stuff. You'd get Smurfs, you'd get Care Bears, you get the Little Prince flying. He lived on an asteroid and he'd snatch a comet in a net and take him
Yeah.
to Earth to do little adventures. But yeah, the Smurfs were in there,
Smurfs was good.
rock solid Sunday mornings, right? Like
Yeah.
I was like
Um,
super invested into Transformers. I think
Yeah.
that was the one that I kind of had the most
Mhm.
emotional ties with. Conan for me was just the timing of it was perfect because it was like as we mentioned before, and I'm not saying it's my favorite, it's just the one I watched the most because it was like you get up, you get ready,
It's
you got
there.
some time to kill. It's 30 minutes of Conan before you had to leave to go to school.
Yeah.
And so it just fit the right time,
Hmm.
you know. Um I wasn't a big gem guy, I'm gonna be honest with you.
No, no, and hey, that's not going to make my top 5
No.
either, but it was in there.
DuckTales though too.
DuckTales.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Has
That's
to
a
be
good-
up there.
Yeah.
What was the name of the robot?
Gizmo Duck.
There it is.
Gizmo.
Yeah.
I was going to say it before you even said the question. I think I knew what you were going to say.
Yeah.
With Launchpad McQuack and
Yeah.
Launchpad stemming into another original Disney cartoon, went over and was in Darkwing Duck.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
Darkwing Duck. That
he
was,
was the terror that flapped in the night.
that's right.
The Terror of the Flip.
I think at that point we were getting a little bit older and we're kind of
Yes.
aging out. I didn't watch
Yes,
a ton of
absolutely
Darkwing.
were. That was
Yeah.
kind of stuff that was on, as we were getting home from high school and whatnot. So
I was watching like Welcome Back Kotter after school and shit in high school.
oh,
What was Scrooge McDuck's adversary's name?
Oh God. He had the kilt.
he was
Yes.
Scottish.
Scottish guy,
Yeah.
kilt.
God, I can't remember it. I'm looking it up. Scrooge.
I
Flint,
guarantee
Flint something.
you,
Is it
friend of
Flint
the show,
something?
Sarah's down there looking it up.
Say like
Flinty.
Flinty McIntosh or something stupid like that, or
Oh,
Flintheart Glomgold.
oh, Flintheart.
Flintheart Long. That's right. There we go. I was circling. I wasn't coming
Yeah.
in for a landing, but I was circling.
Yeah. He's the second richest Duck.
Absolutely.
This-
It's my
But yeah,
favorite.
no, it was just a good cast of characters though, too,
Yeah.
right? Like I mean, you
Even
had
Huey, Dewey, and Louie were cool. Like they weren't annoying
Yeah.
little kids. They were just because they
You had-
rebooted DuckTales and it's not good.
yeah,
you can't.
It's terrible.
Webbigail, and the scientist guy.
Oh God.
Seb has to look it up.
Yep, said
Okay,
It's
you
on you,
talk.
buddy.
Tails.
right. There's another one that hit for me as well. Now that we're kind of
Fenton Crack Show.
Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which had Firestar and Iceman. Iceman was my introduction to the X-Men.
Is that like the 60s Spider-Man or is that like a newer incarnation of Spider-Man?
That's an 81.
Okay.
It was after the 60s. He had a couple of friends. It wasn't very long. I thought there was more. There's only 24 episodes. That's also available on Disney.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one was like, oh, what's an Iceman? And then I saw him in a grocery store on the cover of a comic book, and that was it. I got hooked on X-Men, and I've never looked back. Also, Magica Dispel, the wizard, the witch, the sorceress from DuckTales.
Oh, there you go.
Solid
You're-
characters. And I think
Yeah.
and I think
Gyro.
having- Gyro.
Gear Loose. That was
That's
the
right.
scientist.
That's right. And I think that's what helped the video game as well, is they had such a rich source of side characters and adversaries that they were able to have Flintheart, they were able to have Magica, and just everybody in there, so you could make the video game not just chasing down one, right? Like there was always something extra in there. There was another character to run into, and I think Disney on the whole did really well with that.
Yeah.
And it's really what made the whole
Well, that was
deal come together.
Like their resurgence in the 90s, right?
Here's the question.
Yeah.
Is Donald Duck a bad father?
He's a shithead.
Like, why is his three sons
Well,
living
now
with
hold on.
Scrooge?
It's
I
got a
can't
very-
remember
I
the
gotta,
reason.
I gotta stop you. Donald is not a father. Donald's the
He's
uncle.
their uncle. Yeah, he's Uncle Donald.
Oh, is it
So
right?
he is-
That's Uncle Donald. So
yeah,
who is
it's
their
Uncle
parents? They don't have
Donald and
parents.
Uncle Scrooge.
Oh, Scrooge is Donald's brother, right?
Were they orphans?
God, I can't remember.
No, let's look at this deep dive.
Yeah.
I believe in the newer one, I saw something where they introduced the mother. I definitely think that the kids have some garbage parents, but Uncle Donald, Uncle Scrooge stepped up. Don't forget the Beagle Boys. The swear to God, that's what the original ECW Dudley family was based off of. Just a ton of dudes that vaguely look alike that have different sort of key aspects. So yeah, I mean, Donald, I think, is a solid uncle. He set him up when he joined the Navy. It's like send him to live with the next best thing, totally taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to learn to have a heart of gold, but eventually he had a heart of gold and not stored in his money pit.
Yeah.
Also,
So-
while we're thinking of it, speaking of Disney revivals and updating it, I think we've missed the biggest one. I don't think we've mentioned it yet.
The Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
No, where they took Indiana Jones and they took Magnum PI and made them chipmunks, Chippendales Rescue Rangers.
Oh yeah,
There
right.
you go.
Wow.
Chip and
Right?
Dale.
Like-
Wow. Yeah. Forgot all that. Yeah. Forgot all
Yeah,
about it.
Yeah, with Monterey Jack, and that's where you got that small animal crime going on.
Yeah.
They
Interesting. Yeah.
again also recently got a reboot. Haven't watched it.
No.
I think
Probably
I
won't.
don't watch some of these things just because my nostalgia thing wants to leave.
It'll ruin it.
alone.
Yeah, it'll ruin it. It'll be all
Um,
woke and shit. And it's
I
like,
mean, I know we talked last week about Transformers and He-Man reboots.
Mhm.
The only reason I watched the last He-Man reboot was 2 words: Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith, and it was
Right?
absolutely amazing. I love,
We like Kevin Smith. He's
it made me like He-Man all over again because he did
Yeah.
it justice. Like he did it properly.
yeah.
He absolutely did.
Yeah.
And I'm holding out hope that his good buddy will invite him along on a vacation because he is friends with Chris Jericho, and Kevin Smith making a Jericho cruise would just.
Mhm.
have
Did you
me-
guys ever watch that show that he did? It was like an evening with Kevin Smith where he talks about
Yes.
like industry stuff. He talks about writing Superman,
Mhm.
and then
Yep.
then the thing that he was supposed to do with Prince and how he met Prince, and he was
I
writing.
haven't heard that.
I'll find it for you one day. I think Kevin Smith is probably one of the greatest live storytellers I've ever listened to.
Oh, for sure.
The way he can hold an audience and how his comedic timing, and he's very enthralling to listen to. Like
Yes,
when he speaks, you
absolutely.
just want to listen to what he's saying
Yeah.
because he's a good storyteller. He's got a point. He sprinkles in a lot of comedy throughout that, right? And then there's always a punchline at the end of his stories.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Does he
you know.
still do his podcast?
Yes.
I fell off
Yeah,
a long time
it's-
ago.
Yeah, I've
podcast.
listened to episodes here and there.
Yeah.
But also what I really like about that is I've seen his podcast studio because it is the video store from Clerks.
Oh, that's hilarious.
amazing.
He bought that building. I was there a little under a year ago. Went and saw the Quick Stop, and where the video store is now Smodcast Studios.
Nice.
I
And
love
he
it.
buys like theaters that are going under and resurrects them and keeps them afloat. I know he's done that with a few in the East Coast and
Mhm.
stuff. And I think that's pretty noble. It's just a dying the theater, that type of theater. It's like a dying art.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
didn't
I
he
think-
like apply for like a whole bunch of credit cards to fund his first movie, and then
I
Oh
his,
yeah, no, he
his
Yeah.
demeanor was like, "It's either going to work or I'm going to go bankrupt." Oh well, whatever.
yeah, that was it, and that's why it's in black and white, is because after he maxed out everything, begged, borrowed, and stole everything he could, famously sold his comic book collection, which was Brody from Mallrats and the rest of the series.
Yeah,
Same sort of deal, and Kevin sold it all, right?
Wow.
And to make Clerks, but he couldn't afford color film, which is why it is the labor of love it is. I think part of Kevin's appeal, especially to guys like us, is he is us.
yeah.
He would
He's the
fit-
common man, the
he is
everyday
common
man.
man. He wants to hold this nostalgia and put it up on a pedestal where we can all enjoy it again. And he is out there to do justice to the things we love, the things we are talking about right now. If you put Kevin Smith's name on any of these shows that we have watched
Yeah.
as doing a reboot, and I'm in,
Mhm.
because he's going to do it justice. And God knows some of them really could use Kevin Smith doing Thundercats. I'm in. Kevin Smith's doing Mask, or redoing a GI Joe. Absolutely. I'm here for it.
And he's got the knowledge base to do it well, and
Mhm.
I
And the
trust
love.
in
And the
his
love, right? It's,
yeah, I trust in his creative vision that if he gets
Mhm.
involved in a project, that he's going to try to see the best possible story for the characters involved of whatever IP that he gets involved
Mhm.
in. Like he wants to make a cool, amazing story,
Mm-hmm.
not fighting a giant spider at the end of it.
Yeah.
Have you watched the He-Man reboot, Seb?
I've not. No.
You should. It's on Netflix. You should really watch it. It's good. It's 2 seasons. It's quick. The
Yeah.
episodes are like 20 minutes or 22 minutes or something, and it flows real fast.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I have Netflix anymore with this whole password sharing
Oh,
scenario here, so I might have to actually get my own. But
okay.
I was
enough.
Well-
part of the family one, but
Yeah.
obviously I'm not in the same Wi-Fi.
No,
area,
Yeah, you probably got
so-
the boot. Yeah, you probably got the
Yeah.
boot.
Ironically enough, it still works on my TV, but it doesn't work on my tablet.
Oh.
So
So you got to go old school, sit in front of the boob tube.
Yeah, we don't
And there's
like that.
nothing wrong with that. I actually was showing my little buddy Spencer He-Man's reboot last week. He's 5, so the attention isn't quite there for it. But
Mhm.
he sat through probably the first episode, and honestly, I got to get back to it. So it's it's just the way it
Yeah.
is. So think about this for a couple minutes here. Let's say Saturday morning, 3-hour block, 6 shows. What's your ideal lineup?
So the 30 minutes, so it's 6 shows.
So 6 shows. Now I've put some thought into this, and I'm just sort of springing it on you guys. So I will I'll rattle off mine and give you guys a couple minutes. I'm gonna start with something light. I'm going with Gummy Bears, and then I'm gonna get into a little more nostalgia. I'm probably gonna go with the Super Friends, and then it's gonna be a double hit of G.I. Joe and Transformers right after that, because I remember how that worked out. I'm going back into the superheroes with the X-Men, and I'm gonna probably wrap it up with a Ghostbusters, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's
The
such a
real
good-
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that's such a good one.
Go ahead, Seb. It's all you.
Oh, and you're putting me on the spot now here. Hey? Okay.
Sorry, man.
Well, I've already said the 3 for sure off the top of my head is Conan, DuckTales, and Transformers. So those are a must on there. I would have to say the Smurfs as well,
Mm-hmm.
just because we talked about it, and now that I recollect that, I really enjoyed the Ewoks
Mm-hmm.
for some reason.
Did you ever watch the Ewok movie? Sorry to derail your list. Did you ever watch the 2 movies that came out before the
Yes.
cartoon?
Yep. With
The Battle of
live
Endor
action
and
ones, right?
the Kid Caravan, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
Second one, I got my kids to watch it, and they were like crying at the end. They loved it. It was so
Yeah.
it's in it. Hold up is the wrong word, but it's enthralling. It really is.
They
Yeah, and
really
those-
hit a home run with the Ewoks as a character.
Because the
Right.
first
Well, they
movie
really
they didn't
did.
talk, and they didn't have any. They couldn't have
Yeah.
the technology to move like their. I think it was creepy as hell. But the second one, they dialed it in, and their mouths moved, and they got some good voices.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry
and
to
those were
interrupt
made
you.
for that Disney Sunday night show as well, right? Those were basically made for TV movies
Yes.
that
Yeah.
they would drop in on us after the Raccoons.
Mm-hmm. Can't figure it out with the raccoons, man. Was that a Canadian only show?
It was that was a Canadian show, and that was I had forgotten about it for years until I saw the Christmas episode, and I think we covered that a couple months ago. But yeah, it was a solid Canadian show, and you would normally see it leading into the Disney Sunday night movie.
Yeah. Sorry, Seb. We totally derailed your list.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
I do
I'm
apologize.
still trying to figure it out.
Okay, I could blast through. a
Okay,
lot. I'll
blast
just-
for yours.
Okay, for me, it'd be Ewoks, the Warner Brothers stuff, Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner. You can lump that all
Looney
together.
Tunes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Looney Tunes. Thank you. Scooby Doo, Transformers, and He Man. That's mine. That'd be my ideal block of cartoons.
That's a solid block.
Yeah.
That's a solid
Yeah.
block.
Or I could do all 6 of Transformers, and I could just shut everything else out. But
There you go.
But,
Yeah, so
so-
Conan, DuckTales, Transformers, Ewoks, Looney Tunes has to be on there. And then
Mm-hmm.
for my last one, man, that's a tough one. There's so many I can put in my last.
I mean, it's tough.
Yep.
But I mean, that's all we really got. We got
Smurfs,
from,
I
like, 8
guess.
to 11.
Yeah.
Smurfs. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's I mean, we
Flintstones
got-
being a close second there.
and and the Flintstones was not a normal Saturday morning cartoon. It was originally designed to be like The Simpsons, where it was
That's true.
an adult
Yeah.
animated show when it first came out, and it came out in prime time, right? Like as
Yeah.
as sort of tame as it is, and as sort of corny as the jokes have gotten to be, but that's because they've lasted. It was a Simpsons for the 60s, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Do you guys remember the short-lived TV series live action dinosaurs.
Oh hell yeah!
It was very Flintstone oriented, but they were like
There are people
dinosaurs
in
living.
suits. Oh, it's
Yeah.
so yeah, that's awesome.
And you know, it picked up a wobble there after a while,
Yeah.
but when they ended that show, it was an absolute tearjerker.
I only watched a
Okay.
couple episodes.
I
So
think it's on Disney Plus. Seb, you got so.
oh
much.
my god.
Yeah, at least
It's a
at
whole
least
new
go back.
world.
Yeah, at least go back and watch the final episode because
Yeah.
like it's absolutely crushing because I mean it's an end of times thing.
Oh, don't spoil it.
And
So a meteor comes out of the
And kills everybody. Okay, fair enough.
and it's just the family watching the news and nothing anybody can do.
Fade to white instead of fade to black.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
I honestly I only saw it once and it was trauma.
I'll have to watch
once in a
that.
while you'll see a listicle pop up. It's like, oh, great TV endings, and that's always in there. It's like, nope, can't do it.
At least they
Can't
did
do
it
it.
right because so many shows. That's another. We could do that for another show, and show endings. But that's
the best and worst show endings of all time.
they got it right. They had the only way you could end that dinosaur show was basically nuking them.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean it's one of those things. Like you're watching a based on a true story thing. You're like, well, it's based on a true story, and I remember this news thing,
Yeah.
so he ain't gonna live,
No, yeah, exactly right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. It was hard to get invested in Apollo 13 beyond. Oh, that's a terrible situation. But you know, they make it.
Yeah, still a good movie.
No, great movie, but
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where you're not like, are they gonna make it?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah,
some
that would have
people-
been way better if you didn't know the outcome of that, right? Like
Yeah.
if it was because you do know they're gonna make it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the drama's kind of subsided a little bit because the fear of them not making it. But you could also do a Quentin Tarantino swerve where they just rewrite history.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
Have the ship hit by an asteroid, and there you go. Have Samuel
Yeah.
Jackson swearing at the asteroid.
You know what?
I watched a podcast with a bunch of actors, and Samuel Jackson was on there, and they're talking about Django Unchained, and he's like, "So, do you read the script before saying yes to Quentin, or do you just agree because he's written a part for you?" And he's like, I'll read it, but I'm not going to do it. Like he's written a role just for me." And then so he was, as I was reading Django Unchained, I realized I'm 15 years too old for this part. So I'm like, he didn't write that for me. He wrote Steven. And he's like, so you want me the most despised, when he says the N-word because it's Samuel Jackson ever. And he's like, yep. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
and you know, Quentin is responsible for his career essentially. Now, not entirely, but I mean,
Yeah.
Sam came out with a 1-2 punch of Pulp Fiction and Die Hard with a Vengeance, almost on top of each other.
Here's a quick question for you before you get into this. Who was
Yeah.
originally supposed to play what's his character name
Jules?
from Jules in Pulp Fiction?
Because
It was written for another person. It wasn't written for Samuel L. Jackson.
No,
he was
it
the replacement.
It wasn't, and I've had this question before.
It's not
and I can't-
Denzel, is it?
No,
Okay.
No.
Let's go with the obvious.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, right.
Oh yeah.
And then he had a meeting because I just saw this on a TikTok
Oh,
actually.
that's right. I remember. Yeah, I remember.
with Tom Cruise.
No, sir, it was not Tom Cruise.
So he was a conversation, and they originally wrote it for Lawrence Fishburne, but Lawrence Fishburne hired a bunch of managerial bodies to kind of help propel his career into a leading role, and they told him not to do it because it's not a leading role. And then you're also playing with John Travolta, who at the time
Was a
had
nobody.
his career was destroyed, right? So.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, I mean,
he
there's-
turned it down, but he wanted to do it. But he says, I just hired these guys and they're telling me not to do it. So what did I hire these guys for? They're going to lead me to
The promised
another
land, and it really did.
promised land, right? So,
look,
but
at
he did
Pulp
he did
Fiction.
get his Matrix moment though later on. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. I mean, but when you look at it, Pulp Fiction, and we are way off the topic of
We
cartoons.
are, yeah.
However, I can bring this back if you give me just a minute. Pulp Fiction was Bruce Willis and a bunch of unknowns and a guy that's last movie he wrote getting his ear cut off and dancing to Stuck in the Middle with You.
Yeah.
I can understand why Lawrence Fishburne coming off of Boys in the Hood,
Yeah.
his management team would be like, no, we're not doing the movie with Bruce Willis and a bunch of relative unknowns.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what it was. It was John Travolta, whose career was just in the toilet. It was Sam Jackson, who had done a bunch of stuff, but never huge. I mean, I think before that,
he never broke through, right?
Uma Thurman, who
died in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
One of the guys that died in Jurassic Park. But to bring this back to Saturday morning cartoons, you asked, is there IP for another show out there for a Saturday morning cartoon? I would love to see Jules and what's
Vincent
Travolta's
Vega?
name?
Vincent Vega.
Vincent.
Jules and Vincent as a cartoon. Absolutely, sign me up.
Like Men in Black style, like have the
Men in Black had a cartoon.
Men in Black had a
Men in
cartoon.
Black did have a cartoon. Yeah, again,
Luke
That would
was a
be
cartoon kind of
like
too.
a 9 o'clock spot on a Thursday night, though. That would not be a Saturday morning cartoon.
No, that would be
they
straight
don't
streaming.
necessarily have to, get super graphic with it, like an anime or even a Spawn type thing. But just watching those two for half an hour, try and track down somebody for,
Yeah.
Try and clean up Marvin out of the car.
yeah, trying to
One
clean
of
up
the
Marvin out of the
Best
car.
scenes ever.
Yeah, like I
Just went off.
Shoots him in the head. You went over a bump.
because I think those two, I mean, it's really unfortunate the way Pulp Fiction played out, because I think there's some meat on the bone with Jules and Vincent just being Jules and Vincent riding around in a car. Like,
Well, you could prequel it because you could
Jules-
just say they were hanging out before the events of Pulp Fiction, right? And then
Honestly, I could see
Jules goes
out
and
of,
gets them from Paris, right?
that's right.
out of any Quentin Tarantino IP, the one that would be best as an anime series is Kill Bill, I think.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, just the
If
whole
they have not already done it, but
the ninja,
well, I mean,
the ninja aspect, yeah.
yeah.
15 minutes of Kill Bill Part 1 was animated,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
right? The ninja fight was
I'll
basically
have to watch
animated.
those again. It's been a long. I haven't seen them since they came out.
So good.
Those
Not in my
I
Tarantino
waited.
rewatch wheelhouse. Honestly, they're not. I just,
So good.
Man.
Michael, come on, Mike.
I'm sorry,
come
man.
On,
Sorry.
come on.
I'm so sorry.
All right.
Oh,
We should probably
man.
stop talking about Quentin Tarantino because I think we're gonna do a podcast about him in the future.
We will.
So
Well, I mean, we tend to veer off into other subjects, but yeah, no, Tarantino is coming. We got lots of stuff going on for this Saturday morning stuff. So, what was your Saturday morning routine like, boys, when you're getting up? Mine was I would get up, I would turn the TV on, figure out what show was on, or I'd find the paper. Like, normally I would just turn the TV on. We had 12 channels in the 80s, so like 4 of them are going to have cartoons. So I check the 4 channels, see which one I'm going to land on.
Yeah.
Or if I hadn't, because I would set my alarm clock if it was a year where my show was on like 8 o'clock in the morning, I made sure that alarm was going off at 1:45 so I could make sure I didn't miss G.I. Joe or Transformers or He or whatever it was. Find the channel, start a show, grab the cereal. That's it. I might refill the bowl a couple of times, might spill a glass of juice or two, and blame the dog or my brother. But that was it. And I was there in my jammies until either I was made to leave the house, which did not always go over well. Because you're taking me away from shows. I need to watch my stories, Mom. And that was it. And then about 11 o'clock, when things peter out, it was either outside or video games or to
both.
torture my brother somehow.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Makes sense. I had a lot of soccer on Saturday, Sundays through the weekend. So there was a lot of, it's either I would be able to watch them or I didn't watch them at all on one weekend because I was out to go to soccer games for like 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. So most of my cartoon watching, honestly, maybe that's why the Ewoks hold such a special place in my heart. It was because it was Sunday afternoons, late Sunday, where I would watch a lot of my cartoon stuff. So the Saturday morning one, and then DuckTales after school at 3. So I didn't get a lot, which don't get me wrong, I'm a massive soccer fan and I'm really happy I played soccer all through my youth because I loved it and enjoyed it. But I didn't get to spend the typical Saturday mornings bowl of cereal in front of the TV on most
Mhm.
weekends.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a few, obviously during the downtime and off season, I would binge watch
Yeah.
cartoons.
Yeah.
And
But
I'm
yeah,
sure your dad was always quick to get you to do something anyway.
yeah, I was very clever because I used to invite my friends over for the weekends so that I didn't have to
Mhm.
work. And
Mhm.
then my dad would still drag me out while my friends would
Yep.
be able to play.
Or your
Well,
dad
we
was just
know.
telling me to go home and be like, okay, it's time to go. What?
Well,
Yeah.
All right.
because
Yeah,
he knew.
Your dad's scary. I'm going home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, we remember you and your dad. We'll say discussing your activities for the day.
Yeah,
Now,
anything to
that's
get
where
out of chores,
we
man.
didn't have a lot of TVs. In our
Yeah.
house. I don't think anybody did. Like you had one major TV, and you might have a secondary one somewhere, or your parents might have one in their bedroom. But I think for me, my brother played hockey, so Saturday
Yeah.
morning he had practice or a game. They gone.
You had free reign.
They were gone, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
my
that's
brother might
amazing.
be there for a little while, but for the most part, out playing hockey, and it
Yeah.
worked. And because he was so into it, he would be doing spring hockey, or he'd be doing hockey camp during the summer. I didn't have that problem,
Yeah.
right? Mike, what about you?
A lot like yours, aside from the sibling thing. I kind of got free reign because I am an only child, so it was, whatever kept me entertained. We only had one TV for the longest time, but eventually we got a second one, and I got to watch all my mumbo jumbo downstairs and
Mhm.
leave my parents alone to watch the grown up stuff. But yeah, no, it was a lot of getting up and getting the cereal, or having your mom make pancakes for you, whatever, and you
Mhm.
got whatever show was on, right? And even Sunday night when the Disney, after the news, I think it was on CBC, Disney always
Yep.
put something on Sunday
Channel
night,
3.
Channel 3, and we'd always sit down and watch whatever that Disney thing was, whether it was like Swiss Family Robinson, the raccoons,
The
whatever.
raccoons. Yeah.
The
And
Apple Dumpling gang always went
yeah.
over well with me. I
And
think we got
actually,
another show there
even
as
at
well.
home, like we have that Me TV, they just show all old stuff, like
Oh,
Andy Griffith and
yes.
shows like that, and we actually sit down as all four of us, and we'll sit there and watch Andy Griffith, and
Yep.
it's black and white, and it's just it's fun. It's that quality time, like the Disney thing when I was a kid. We don't do it every night, but Andy's usually always coming out, or MASH or something, which MASH isn't really kid appropriate, but it's the same kind of vibe, right?
You know what? It
Doesn't
I
really
mean,
matter
MASH, we
what's
got a
on.
whole
We're sitting as the four of us, and we're enjoying just our company.
no,
Anyway, sorry.
absolutely, and that's I think we got a Disney Sunday show in here. Somebody should be writing this stuff down. I'm kidding, I am. But
Good.
it's the Disney Sunday stuff. The same for us, because Saturday night hockey night in Canada. I'm
Mhm.
not getting the TV.
No.
That ain't happening.
Yeah.
I wasn't always into it. Now, granted, I probably watched more than I realized,
Probably.
because I mean it was I don't remember specific games, and I wouldn't be sat there for the entire thing. However, if certain players were on, just watching, like, because the heyday, like Gretzky, Lemieux,
Mhm.
like
Stuff was
just
always
watching
on.
some of them
It was
play
just
high
on.
scoring, shoot the lights out stuff.
Mhm.
But I wasn't as into it. Like I wouldn't sit there. My dad, my mom, my brother would sit there. My brother learned to swear at the TV from Pastor Mom.
Oh boy.
At the hockey game. But it's Sunday night, same deal. Like there'd be two lead-ins, and it was the Raccoons and then something else for long. Fraggle Rock. Fraggle
Yeah.
Rock did a few years
Yeah.
leading in, and then it was the Disney Sunday movie.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was an animated thing.
And
Sometimes
sometimes it wasn't, right?
Sometimes it wasn't. You'd get
It
the
was
Apple
Tron
Dumpling.
or whatever the
Yeah.
fuck they felt
You
like putting out.
Yeah, you'd get most of them were like the made for TV stuff, like the
Yeah.
Davy Crockett stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was that quality time, and Saturdays was for the kids, Sundays was for the parents. And you know what? I thought it's great marketing too, because like if your kid's old enough to get up, not burn the house down, microwaving a cinnamon bun. Sorry about that, Mom. It's
You
a
put it
true
in for
story.
2.5 minutes, or
Yeah. No, I put it. I turned the dial to 99 minutes
Oops.
to warm up my cinnamon bun. And
Sorry.
at any rate, but I mean, Saturday morning, like your parents.
so Matt
are-
had to move at some point because the house burned down.
Not entirely, but damn near. Thank God for fire extinguishers. But
Oh my
but my point being is the parents are still young parents. Like, sure, they were old to us at the time, but now having lived through it, like my oldest is 19 today. But having lived through it, like, sweet fucking Jesus, we just had a Friday night. Can you shut up and be quiet for a while? Saturday morning cartoons. Like
It's a happy
7
place.
to 11. Pour yourself a cereal.
Yeah.
Don't fight with your brother.
And leave us the
Let
fuck
us
alone.
sleep.
Yeah. Leave us alone.
Absolutely.
It was a time for serenity and peace and just to escape into all these amazing worlds that had no boundaries, basically. So,
yeah, absolutely. And
thumbs
some
up.
of this stuff is holding up. And I mean, some have been lost to time. Thundercats and Mask, and the Snorks have been lost to time. But I mean, we got other stuff that lives on, like Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man. Absolutely living on. And then there's just the evergreen properties, the superhero stuff from Marvel, from DC, the Disney stuff that is
Never go
getting
away.
reboots.
it's because they're highly marketable, as we've already talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And we lived through a time of appointment viewing. Now it's streaming, and I feel bad my kids missed out on that, not just because I needed the sleep, because normally I'd be working a Friday morning and then after a Thursday night when my kids were that age, so I'd be dead tired Friday. So my kids would tuck me in Friday night. I'd fall asleep on the couch and I'd wake up at like 11:30 and they're both sleeping next to me.
The
not
whole
to be a terrible parent about it, but
No, it's not
they didn't
terrible.
have it.
No,
Right?
the whole ceremony of getting in front of the TV to watch something. The last time I had that was House of the Dragon. Was the last time I really had a ceremony of getting in front of the TV to watch stuff. Now it's just like, just throw it on your tablet, watch it in the car on the way there.
Yeah.
Your show's on, just throw it on your tablet. You can watch it in the car. We're gonna go for breakfast or whatever. So you don't have the pack in front of the TV and watch Sunday Night Football or whatever, or Saturday morning cartoons. Like it's available everywhere for you. You don't have that sense of I need to be here at this time to watch it, which is a good and a bad thing, I think.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean it really is. I think they're missing the urgency of appointment TV, let alone the fact that we can pause stuff now. There was nothing like that commercial break, high speed burn to the bathroom and to the kitchen, and having that one person sat there going from across the house, it's on, and everybody comes charging back. Like a comedy bit at the end of school. Everybody's hustling, right? Like the popcorn's getting burnt. Somebody's had to cut off a pea midstream and hold that for another 15 minutes, right? I mean, it's like Seb said, there's pros and cons to it. But there's something about having that time, whether it is just your alone time, whether it's just your favorite show, it doesn't exist. You pause it and whatever. Oh, it's PVR. Like back in the day, if we wanted to record something, we had one show at one time, unless you had multiple TVs and VCRs.
Yes.
Even then. Now, I mean, I got 6 shows recording at once on some nights. And it's just like, I'll get to it.
5 of those are wrestling shows, by the way.
Yes.
2.
Not so bad.
Actually, my wrestling's pretty spaced out, but we won't get into that right now.
No.
But it's like we'll be recording a Real Housewives of something. We'll be recording a Young Rock or whatever it is. But there's like I can turn on the TV on I think it's Thursday night or Wednesday night, and there's 4 things recording at once.
Nice.
And Wednesday night's the only night that I really have appointment viewing because I'm watching Dynamite. But I don't think anybody else in my house does appointment viewing because it's PVR it. It's on the on-demand. It's just on Netflix. It's
just
a lost
sports
thing.
that are appointment viewing at this point, or like mega popular TV series. Is like the last season of Game of Thrones was appointment viewing because you had to. There's no option.
Absolutely.
Like,
House of Dragon.
House of the Dragon, same thing. Because you want
Walking Dead used to be that way.
I was just gonna say for us, like when our son was first born, The Walking Dead was just coming out, and that was like our Sunday night. Was like, okay, we put him to bed in time, have him asleep by the time Walking Dead started, and then hopefully we could get through the whole show and then watch Talking Dead after. It was like for up until because we fell off after like season 8 or 9.
So I guess that's the prime spot now in TV is Sunday night.
I think so.
That's the
Yeah.
slot that you want.
Because everybody's home, right? Everybody's,
Yeah.
Just gearing up for the next round.
Yeah.
Around we go, back to work. Hi ho, hi ho. It's off to work we go, right?
Generally
why-
at 8 or 9 because you want to be after the Sunday
Yes.
night football game. And then-
Which is why our 8 o'clock podcast didn't do so great on Sundays.
I guess that's
pretty
probably
Because we
much
were
why.
up against
Yeah.
a couple of bangers. And you know what? There's a few networks you can count on. You can count on HBO to drop something good. You can
Yeah.
count on,
AMC when they got stuff
AMC.
cooking. When they got stuff cooking, yeah.
I mean, and stuff like that. So, the appointment viewing, the cartoons, it's almost a lost art. I mean,
Mhm.
there's some really, really good content out there, but there's 300 channels.
It's just too
Mhm.
much. You
I
can
mean-
never comb through it all to find those gems, right?
No.
No, and it's so I think I'm gonna go start searching through Tubi and
Yeah.
find me some Saturday morning cartoons.
find
I
me
think
some
we got a brunch
Transformers.
thing coming up here that I got to get to. It's starting to celebrate. My
All right. I have
19-year-old.
Disney Plus to comb through as well.
You do
Right.
have Disney Plus.
You do.
Best
There's a
of luck.
lot. There's an
I know.
awful lot.
It is absolutely overwhelming.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't
This-
even
It's a good
Start
platform.
with
to
one
direct you.
thing and then don't try and watch 200 shows at once. Just start with one.
Yeah, I got
finish
too
it,
much
and
to
there's-
watch these days.
Yeah.
and that's a problem we didn't used to have. It used to
No.
be, well, there's nothing on. Why don't you watch TV? Well, there's nothing on.
Yeah.
Right?
There's
That
no
excuse
such thing
doesn't
anymore.
hold water
We didn't
anymore
have it,
because
now
you can go to
we're-
800 platforms and find something to watch.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, it's been real. Thank you all for joining
right.
us. Gord, Sarah, Landon, everybody else that joined us today. Thanks for hanging out with us Saturday morning. We'll see you next Saturday morning with a topic to be determined. Like our page on Facebook, like us on YouTube, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, and we will be back running our mouths next week, and we'll let you know what's going on.
Peace.
See ya.
Mike, you gonna say it?
Am I going to say what good day, how do?
There you go.
That's a
Good
t-shirt.
afternoon.
That's my thing now.